I literally can't with this manga. It is so good. Please read this. Please read this. Hey guys, it's Taku. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. Today we are going to be talking about some anime and manga that I read and watched last month, which was June, Pride Month. A lot of these titles are going to be LGBTQ, and one of the goals that I set myself up with last month was to sort of go through the shelves and pull out every single LGBTQ anime or manga and give it a watch, give it a read, just to partly to validate having bought it in the first place, because a lot of these were first reads and first watches for me. They've been sitting on my shelves for months. And what a better time to read LGBTQ manga and anime than throughout Pride Month. But before we get started with our first title, I do want to let you guys know that I have full series reviews or full first impressions of all of these titles. They are on my blog. So if you want to check the link in the description for my blog, you can read more thorough analytical thoughts maybe on some of these titles than sort of the quick overview that I will be giving you right here. But without further ado, let's go ahead and just jump right into things. I'm realizing now that I probably started off Pride Month a little too strong with this first title, but this is Rihito Takarai's 10 Count, and it is a yaoi BL manga series from Sublime Manga. Here, there are all 6 volumes for you guys. 10 Count is going to be a mixed bag for a lot of people. It has very good art. I really like Rihito Takarai's style. This is the story of Tadaomi Shirotani. He is a secretary, but he has extreme germophobia. And when he meets Riku Kurose, a behavior therapist, Riku offers to help Shirotani overcome his germophobia in exchange for just time hanging out together and getting to know one another. Obviously, this is a patient-therapist relationship, and it starts off as just friends and turns into something that is much more later on. The first couple volumes are pretty mild at first. I actually like the story a lot whenever it is showing Shirotani just hopping out of his element, whether it's buying a new suit, going to the bookstore, even just trying to drink coffee at a local cafe. These are things that are very problematic for Shirotani to do, and watching Kurose just try to help Shirotani, those were actually my favorite parts of the novel, or of the series. The rest of the sort of smutty, just BL stuff is okay. I don't mind BL. BL is something that doesn't bother me, but just know that there is quite a lot of fetishization of his misophobia, of his germophobia later on in the volumes. I won't tell you anything to spoil things, but it starts off very serious, and as it goes along, it kind of just unwinds and unravels a little bit. But all in all, it is not a terrible series at all. In fact, if you are in it just for Rihito Takarai's art, you will be more than pleased with what you get in 10 Count. I gave all of 10 Count by Rihito Takurai an 8 out of 10 on MyAnimeList. While I was in the Rihito Takurai neighborhood, I went ahead and picked up 7 Days, which was a licensed rescue release by Sublime Manga. This has story by Venia Tachibana and art by Rihito Takurai. This is about a mysterious sort of freshman who dates a new girl every week and gives her the most, wonderful time of her life. But come the next Monday, he breaks up with her and goes out with the first person to ask him out. And Yuzuru Shino, who is a 3rd year, gets curious about the first year and decides to ask him out. And to his surprise, the first year says, "I'll go out with you." And this is the story that takes place over 7 short days. Every day is divided into about 2 chapters, so it's very well paced. You're getting pretty much the whole play-by-play of their relationship. I thought it was a very, very cute manga. I thought that the relationship felt very sincere. It felt very real. Both of these two kind of don't know what true love is. They are both kind of playboys at their high school, but neither know what it is like to actually fall in love with someone. And so it's amazing to see what dating one another reveals about themselves to each other. The only thing I didn't like about it was how the plot seemed like it could be resolved after Tuesday night. It had the 2 characters just kind of sat down and talked out their feelings with one another and how they were genuinely enjoying their time together, and that it wasn't just a romance that started off as a joke. But, it's early BL still, and I enjoyed this title a lot. I gave it a 9 out of 10 on MyAnimeList. The next title is just a volume 1. This is volume 1 of Candycolored Paradox by Isaku Natsume. I just did a first impressions of this on my blog, but to give you an overview of this one, this is about Satoshi Onoe. He takes great pride in his work at a magazine company, and he is a very ethical writer. He takes his job very seriously, and the one person he cannot stand is Kaburagi. And one day their boss decides to shuffle around the stakeout teams, and Kaburagi and Onoe are paired together. A lot of this takes place out in the field, so if they are not at their job, at their office writing something, or if they're not at the bar just drinking, they are out in the field doing their stuff. So I'm not a huge fan of magazines or newspapers or just news in general. So that business aspect of it really took it out for me. And I should have probably done a little bit more research when I was going into buying this. I kind of just saw the cute art and picked it up. Because of the nature of Satoshi and Kaburagi's jobs, it naturally wasn't my favorite manga read, but I do think it is still a cute story, and if you are looking for a less than serious but kind of steamy workplace drama, consider picking this up. But for now, I'll probably put this on hold, and yeah, maybe pick it up sometime later. The next title I decided to read was one that is one of those releases that has been sitting on my shelves for a long time. This is Ryoko Ikeda's Clawdeen, which was brought to us by 7 Seas Entertainment. Clawdeen, who's pictured on the cover here, is a transgender man. That is to say, Clawdeen was born female but doesn't believe that he was born into the right gender. And this is basically a biography of Clawdeen's life, starting at birth all the way through teenage years and what comes after that, and then parts of his adult life. It is pretty sad. It is very real. It is about identity and culture and self-acceptance, but then also societal acceptance. This takes place in 19th century France, I believe, and Ryoko Ikeda explores how gender and sexuality were viewed during that time, during this period. I thought that the release, this re-release, is quite gorgeous, actually. The large trim format is very much appreciated for this, as is kind of the foil styling on the title right there. But this was a very, very powerful read. I don't recommend it to everyone just because it is, well, it's Ryoko Ikeda, so Rose of Versailles. It is highly dramatic. The art is not going to be for everyone, but if you are into that old 70s, 80s vintage shoujo look, and you are ready for a story that is quite a bit more serious, it is a lot real, and there is sort of a trigger warning for suicidal themes throughout the volume. And for a one-shot about a transgender man living in 19th century France, I thought this was incredibly poignant. It is wonderful. It is very short, but it does everything it needs to in this volume, and I couldn't recommend this enough. I give it a 9 out of 10 on MyAnimeList. We're starting to get into the less than serious now. This is Bucura Yamada's Melting Lover, which was brought to us by Kuma. I do want to mention right off the bat, instead of talking about stories or characters, that this is a yaoi anthology. That is to say that it includes 4 short stories divided in this manga, and each story has different characters. It's almost a different time period. One of them is about a circus, another one is in modern day Japan, and another one is sort of in the near far future. I liked most of the stories in here. Some of them were definitely stronger than others. Again, there are some triggering themes in this. The circus one, for instance, has some themes of rape in it that are not going to agree with everyone. That aside, the publication is actually what got to me to begin with. The publication includes a sleeve over a just black kind of sketch style art book looking thing, and the panels themselves are printed on a very high quality paper. So in terms of being Kuma's first publication, I think they knocked this out of the park. It wasn't my favorite read, obviously, of the month, but there is something to say about yaoi anthologies when most of the stories in it are actually pretty good. So I would give this a 7 out of 10 on MyAnimeList. We are now dipping into probably one of my favorite reads of the entire month. This is That Blue Sky Feeling, and it has story by Okura and art by Komahashi. There are 3 volumes, and they were all brought to us by Viz Media. So what can I say about Blue Sky Feeling that would make you read it? Because you should. It is such a good story. This is about Noshiro, who's on the front here. He is a new transfer student. He's kind of big and bumbly and has a really large heart. And he encounters Sanada, and it is rumored at school that Sanada is gay, and that deters a lot of the kids from making friends with him. But for Noshiro, that only sort of grabs his attention. He wants to become friends with Sanada. He is very determined, and while some of his attempts are definitely stronger than others at getting to know him and getting to become friends with him, the ending is very, very sweet. And I like all of the characters in this too. Noshiro, we get to know a lot about him. In fact, Okura uses sort of Noshiro as this like blank slate, kind of like a blank canvas, to impart his views on the LGBTQ community and what does it mean to be gay, or what does it mean to be normal. And then Sanada is obviously here as sort of the object of interest, sort of affection for Noshiro. There's a lot more self-exploration in this. There is a lot of self-acceptance. There's also a lot about learning. I think learning is so essential. I mean, if we looked at Clawdeen, Clawdeen was how society was just incapable of understanding this. But in That Blue Sky Feeling, we are in modern day Japan, and the characters, I mean, these kids are growing up in basically today's world. They are allowing themselves to be open to new things, accepting of ideas. And I just thought that was really wonderful of Okura. The story is also very funny at times. The characters are drawn very cutely. It is one of my favorite art styles. I love how soft and how subtle it is about everything. But if you are looking for a story about self-acceptance that is very lighthearted, but, well meant, That Blue Sky Feeling is definitely one you should pick up. It is very good, and I highly recommend it. I gave this a 9 out of 10 on MyAnimeList. Alright, up next is our first anime of the month. I only watched 2, but I thought both of them were good. This is Love Stage. Specifically, this is the Blu-ray re-release with the brand new English dub, and I watched it dubbed, and it was probably one of the best decisions of my life. Thank you, David Wald, for giving this us. You are a godsend, and I just wanted to say that this was an incredible dub. Now, about the story and the plot itself. Love Stage is about Izumi, who is part of a very wealthy family. He comes from noble blood. His mom's an actress, his dad's a producer, and his brother, Shogo, just happens to be Japan's biggest rock star at the moment. But Izumi doesn't want any of that fame. He just wants to enjoy his otaku hobbies and become a mangaka one day, even though he has no talent for the craft. Although Izumi has avoided the spotlight his entire life, he did do a sort of a wedding commercial as a kid where he cross-dressed as a girl, and 10 years later the same wedding company wants to put together an anniversary promotional thing for their company starring the original child actors, no less. And this brought Izumi back into contact with Ryoma Ishijo, who just happened to have gone on and become a rising star, and he is one of Tokyo's beloved actors. And it is just a funny rom-com. I mean, a lot of this isn't meant to be taken super seriously. Ryoma still thinks that Izumi is a girl, when in fact Izumi is a guy, and Ryoma still loves him despite that. And it's kind of complicated. If you are looking for a good entry-level BL title, Love Stage is where it's at. It is genius, and it is funny, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. This next title had me quite a bit confused for a while. I thought it was just going to be sort of shameless, just smutty BL, but by the end of the 3rd volume, it became a very relatable, very powerful tale about, wanting to leave everything behind. This is Escape Journey. There are 3 volumes. It's by Ogaretsu Tanaka, and they were brought to us by Sublime Manga. So this first volume is about Naoto and Taichi. Naoto is enjoying his first day of college until he reunites with Taichi, who was his ex-lover from high school, and they had broken up because of a terrible fight. In fact, it wouldn't be understated to say that these two fight all the time. And that is actually probably one of the big turnoffs of this. If you are looking for a softer BL where the characters are very nice and kind to each other and just trying to learn, you won't find that here. This isn't That Blue Sky Feeling. Characters will yell at each other, they will cuss at each other, but I do think that is a very real part of relationships. I do think that's a real part of life, and this is sort of following their churning relationship as they go in and out. I thought the first volume was very good. If you wanted to stop here, you actually probably could. The second volume introduces a new character who is an artist. You can see him on the back. And the last 3rd volume gives us more details about their plans sort of after college or for the rest of their lives. Ogaretsu Tanaka explores so many of the options for gay young adults in Japan, whether it is buying an apartment, renting out another place, telling parents, having children, just so many things that are very common for normal couples to sort of navigate through, but can be difficult if you are living with someone of the same sex. And I thoroughly enjoyed this. It's the end. Some of the characters just, they break my heart because I want to wish them the best. I don't want anyone to have, a bad day, but sometimes you have to let go of people. You have to let go of bonds, whether they are friends or family. If they don't accept you for who you are, that is a decision you have to make. And Ogeretsu Tanaka does a really nice job at portraying sort of the goods and bads of being a gay young adult in Japan. It is a very good one to read, and I found myself just loving a lot of things about it, even though I thought I wouldn't at first. I do want to mention, though, that of all the reads and of the watches I have done this month, this is going to be the most explicit. So if you love explicit BL, Escape Journey may be worth it for that alone. If you don't like explicit BL, though, look to other things. I gave this an 8 out of 10 on MyAnimeList. Up next is my first Yuri read, not just of the month, but probably my first Yuri read ever. This is I Married My Best Friends to Shut My Parents Up. And the story and plot are exactly that. It's about Morimoto, who's a young professional working woman in Japan, and her parents are just nagging incessantly on her to get married, settle down, have kids, and stuff like that. Morimoto doesn't really want any of that right now, and so the girl who she's living with, Hana, who just happens to be her best friend from high school, decides to enter a sham marriage with Morimoto, just to get her parents to, get out of the way. It is not a serious manga. It is, I forgot to mention, this is story and art by Kodama Naoko, and it was brought to us by Seven Seas. Yeah, it's not a super serious manga. It is done actually in 3 chapters. It is very short. The art is very simple. A lot of the backgrounds are just going to be white or just like polka dot. But I think the thing that I did like about this the most is how these two just support each other in their endeavors. Hana is trying to be a graphic artist, a digital artist, and watching Morimoto just try to support her as much as she can, and watching Hana, cook and clean as best as she can for Morimoto to kind of, pay her rent. I thought it was very sweet. I thought it was very genuine. And I mean, 2 women standing each other, it's like Josei Justice. So yeah, I gave this a 7 out of 10 on MyAnimeList. The second anime I watched for Pride Month was Hitorajime My Hero. This was brought to us by Sentai Filmworks also, and it was dubbed and directed by David Walsh. And it's such a good dub. I loved listening to it alone. There are things about the story and plot that doesn't necessarily agree with me, though. But this is about Masahiro. Masahiro is a kid from, not necessarily the best living conditions at home. His father's sort of out of the picture. His mom works as a prostitute. And so he's sort of left to clean and cook and do everything and try to go to high school, get an education, and just sort of, live life as an adult. And he gets roped in with the wrong crowd as a young age. A bunch of neighborhood bullies decide to pick on Masahiro, and they rope Masahiro in as sort of their errand boy. That is until one day Kosuke, the bear killer, swoops in and saves Masahiro and kind of gets him out of that lifestyle. Years pass for Masahiro, and he and Kensuke are going to high school. Kensuke's his friend, and what would you know, Kosuke, the bear killer, is now his math teacher. And this is just a teacher-student relationship. It's not, my favorite thing. It is an age gap romance, but I think it is done, with good realism to an extent. I thought Kosuke was kind of actually a rude guy. He would always lead Masahiro on, and I don't think that was a good move for him on several occasions, because Masahiro is already, sort of young at love. He's kind of hopeless. The other characters for me were kind of just meh. It actually follows another relationship with Kensuke and Asaya, who is a boy from Kensuke's past, who now comes back to the present, wanting to be more than just friends. But if you are looking for an interesting, following different relationships that's not just Junjo Romantica or World's Greatest First Love, if you're wanting something a little bit more to bite on than that, Hitorajime might just give that to you. But otherwise, yeah, I think I would recommend Love Stage more than this almost any day. I went ahead and gave Hitorajime My Hero a 7 out of 10 on MyAnimeList. My other Yuri romance read of the month was, for me, the highly anticipated Goodbye My Rose Garden, which was brought to us by Seven Seas and has story and art by Dr. Pepperco. This is a 20th century romance. Hanako is a young Japanese woman. She traverses the seas to England to become a writer and pursue her dreams of doing that. And things obviously fall short for her, and she ends up in the care of Alice. Alice is a noble woman. She is very refined, she's very elegant, and she's very intelligent. The two share a love of reading, and when Hanako gets to see Lady Alice's gigantic library, she totally finds herself at home. But what changes their relationship one day is when Alice asks Hanako to kill her. Hanako is obviously distraught. She's confused why her fair lady would ask, such a terrible request, because Alice is, for the most part, beloved by everyone. And this is kind of spoilers for the first volume, but they tell you early on, but Alice loves women. And that is obviously sort of a taboo thing to do during the Victorian era England. As Hanako tries to get to understand why her lady would make such a terrible request, the relationship between them grows stronger, and, hidden feelings start to blossom. I thought this was incredibly wonderful. In fact, this was easily one of my favorite reads of the month, and it is only a volume 1. I think there are only 3 volumes. The next one does come out sometime throughout July this month. But this is Love Among the Thorns. It is incredibly elegant at the way it tells its story. There is a keen focus for the time period, so down to the stitch style of the maid uniform. Like Dr. Pepperco did his research with this one. It is awesome, and I am totally in for the rest of this ride wherever Hanako and Alice decide to take me. Alice is one of those characters that I easily fall in love with in anime and manga and in books, and if you like a Yuri Victorian romance, definitely pick this up. I think no one is talking about this, and everyone should be. So yeah, it is good. We're down to the last 2 titles here. This is arguably my favorite standalone manga of the month. Probably one of my favorite standalone manga ever now. And this is Our Dining Table, which has story and art by Mita Ori, and it was brought to us by 7 Seas. As you can tell, 7 Seas has been kind of killing their Pride Month game for me, so kudos to them. Despite his talent for cooking, Yutaka, who is a Japanese salaryman, is actually very shy around eating around others. He doesn't really like to do it. He'll always go and eat by himself. That is until Yutaka meets Minoru and Tane, 2 brothers that are very far apart in age, but very close in heart. And this is how Yutaka goes over to their house to teach them how to make delicious food. And as Yutaka's appetite for being around the table with Minoru and Tane starts to grow, so too does the love between Minoru and Yutaka. And I thought this was just wonderful. It is so wholesome. I think this is one of the sweetest foodie reads you could probably ever pick up. And for being, a one-shot standalone volume, there is literally no excuse. This is so wonderful. I cannot express how right everyone was for recommending this. And even though the winter sort of gets colder and colder, the bonds between these 3 only grows warmer. Mita Ori's story about friendship and family meets at the crossroads of food. And if you are looking for a foodie, BL, innocent, pure read that is so wonderful and heartfelt, you will enjoy this absolutely. I gave this a 10 out of 10 on my anime list. Couldn't speak higher of it. It's so wonderful. And the epilogue, it's so cute, guys. So cute. I literally can't with this manga. It is so good. Please read this. Please read this. And now for my very last title. It wouldn't be a 7 Seas Pride Month celebration, without reading Our Dreams at Dusk, or Shimanami Tasagare, which has story and art by Yuki Kamatani. I originally did a first impressions of just volume 1 on my blog, but I have since read all 4 volumes, and I can say for a fact that this is probably one of the most emotional and thought-provoking reads in terms of LGBTQ manga that you could probably ever pick up. This is so good. Yuki Kamatani's art style is truly one of a kind. I love how this story is rooted in kind of countryside, modern day Japan, but at the same time, it dips into a little bit of the fantastic with its presentation. I mean, characters will jump and sparkles are flying behind them, or when a character has their world, kind of fall apart on them, the pages and panels will literally shatter before your eyes. The way that thoughts and emotions intertwine in Our Dreams at Dusk is just incredible. I almost had no words by the end of this. This is about Tasuku Kaname, who is a new kid at his school. He's able to sort of get by his first semester being in the table tennis club, but on the one day where he is found with gay porn on his phone by his classmates, rumors start to fly and everything sort of falls apart for Tasuku. In fact, he actually considers jumping off a cliff and ending his life until he sees a woman off in the distance also jumping off. He's scared out of his mind when he sees that, and when he rushes to the site of her fall, he finds something quite unexpected. At the bottom of this hill is a drop-in center that is open to all. Everyone is very kind and comforting around one another. But what perhaps catches his eye most of all is seeing the woman still alive and intact. In fact, she's walking around as if nothing happens. And the people at the drop-in center dub her Someone-san, and Someone-san is actually the owner of this fine establishment. When he gets to talk to Someone-san, Someone-san lends an ear, but only if he is willing to talk about his problems. And what Tasuku finds is that he can't accept his own sexuality. He can't accept being gay, and that hurts him a lot. This sets him on this incredible journey exploring his sexuality, and it features many of the people that he meets throughout his life. On the other volumes, you can see some of the other members of the drop-in center that will stop by. And it is just a beautiful coming-of-age tale. It is a beautiful coming-out story, too. But there's a lot that goes into this one, and if you are planning to read this, just note that there are some triggering themes. You know, obviously suicide is mentioned in the very first volume, but I assure you that it is very, very good. It will be worth your time, and these are the kinds of works that I wish we could share with others and get them to, you know, see from another side that maybe they're not familiar with. What is it like to be gay in Japan? But what is it maybe like to be a cross-dresser? What's it like to be a lesbian? What is it like to be queer or non-binary or transgender? This hits all of the notes. It hits all of the high notes, and it's so, so good. I literally have nothing but good things to say about this, other than the fact that I wish there was more. I rated Our Dreams at Dusk, Shimanami Tasagari, a 10 out of 10 on MyAnimeList. So there you have it, guys. There is everything that I read and watched throughout Pride Month. You know, I'm sort of new to reading manga in this way. I've read manga in the past, but it's just slowly with some of my favorites. But this, you know, was like a volume a day or sometimes 2 volumes a day. But I had so much fun with it, and I learned so much by reading all these different titles. These are characters from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life, and, you know, no 2 stories here were the same. They are all very different, and they are all very much worth having on your shelf, despite the varying ratings that I would give them. It has been such a wonderful month of reading, of learning, of just seeing how the different manga can approach what can be touching subjects for some people. I just thought that this was a great month of reading. Again, I don't read manga usually in this way, but, you know, maybe after this I will have to do more. Please leave a comment down below. What did you think of any of these titles? What did you think of this video? But also, did you read any LGBTQ manga that I did not get to talk about in this video? I assure you that there are plenty, but please share your recommendations, guys. I'm always looking for more, and I'm sure there's someone else who's also looking for more LGBTQ manga. There can only be more of it, and more of it is a good thing. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. It means the world to me. If you're wanting to follow me on other things, I do have the blog where I've got full series reviews for all of these titles, so please go check that out if you're wanting more. I am also on Twitter at Takuto Anime Cafe, and I am on Instagram at TakutoAC, should you feel inclined to follow me at those places. Thank you again so much for watching this video, and till next time.